It is customary that I give you some parting words, not necessarily words of wisdom, but nevertheless parting words. Now, we have just finished, and I usually do it at dinner, but given that usually the dinner is held inside, but now that we're going to have it outside, I think it will be very difficult to tell you what I want to tell you. We have just finished an 8-day seminar examining various aspects of modern monetary theory, job guarantee, the Green New Deal, and their connection in somehow with the works of both Herman Minsky and Wayne Gadley. There were certainly a number of academic presentations, including panel presentations, as well as discussion and breakout sessions to discuss and provide some answers to questions raised related to the pressing economic issues covered by the MMT approach. The challenge is how to make MMT accepted by many more economists and policymakers, and its ability in expanding the fiscal space for funding a national job guarantee policy and other needed programs such as infrastructure, education, healthcare, without the concerns of inflation. Many presentations provided reasons traditional theory and policy do not address these issues due to the deficit hysteria, but rely instead on private sector actions. Applications of conventional theory approaches have not explained persuasively as to how advanced and complex economies function properly, and especially how money can work for an economy's prosperity. Now, Steve Azari and Randy told us the Minsky story about the processes that are created which lead to economic and financial crisis, and how important a role money can play if the approach to money is viewed from the MMT perspective. MMT has shown that for an economy with sovereign currency, like the US, targeted public spending can take place without the necessary pay from public revenue. The Levy Institute macroeconometric models, based on Wayne Gadley's path-breaking research, enable us to foresee when an economy employing unsuitable policies could get off the rails. Michalis Nikiforos gave our projections for the US economy based on our models under reasonable assumptions for 3 alternative scenarios. Even though Gennaro indicated that these are not forecast, because they turn out to be more accurate than the forecast of the IMF and the Federal Reserve and others, people consider it as forecast. Now, similarly, Gennaro projected the financial balances for Greece. Now, using the macroeconomic identity as an information tool, we can estimate the effects of a fiscal tightening or a fiscal expansion, since according to this approach, the balances of the public sector, usually the budget deficit, plus those of the private sector, both the corporate and the household sector, must equal the current account balance. This means that if there will be a change in one of the balances, say a reduction in the budget deficit, it has implications for the behavior of the other two. Minsky took an unconventional view of things, observing that what pushes an advanced capitalist economy towards the cliff is not stagnation, but a protracted bout with prosperity. In fact, said Minsky, the longer the good times last, the more prominent speculative and Ponzi forms of finance become. No external shocks are required for a collapse. Nothing more than, say, an effort by the central bank to rein in inflation, as we're currently observing, without analyzing its underlying causes by increasing interest rates that can trigger massive asset sales by debtors who can service the claims of their creditors. He proposed economic policies to either avoid the financial crisis happening or at least lessening its impact when it arrived, but warned that validation of the big bank instills undue confidence in the losses of the depositors, since they will be made whole by the big government, what he called, and I mentioned in my opening remarks of this seminar, of contingent socialism. He was disappointed with the regulatory structure and the lack of sophistication of regulators, and would have been more concerned and perhaps terrified with Raoul's presentation of the power of the fintechs on the soundness and safety of the payment system using the new payment modalities. Here at the Levy Institute, our attention over 36 years of our existence has focused on strategic issues of economic policy with far-reaching implications going mostly against the prescriptions of received wisdom. We consider the crucially important problem of achieving long-term economic growth and higher employment in an era of decreasing public expenditure on education, physical infrastructure, and environmental and climatic challenges. Through research, writing, outreach programs like this seminar, we hope we provide an alternative theoretic and policy perspective on the relationship of monetary and fiscal policy to improving living conditions and ensuring economic prosperity. Our plans call for expanding our commitment to these issues and to increase their relevance in the years ahead. This 11th summer seminar is an effort to bring our unconventional thinking to economic problems and solutions to you, who may have not been exposed to before, hoping to instill in you the curiosity for further inquiry and research and learning on MMT, Minsky, and Godley. We hope we have given you enough food for thought and expect the topics covered and the questions raised will encourage you to discuss and convince others that better explanations exist in explaining economic phenomena like fiscal and monetary policy stances and their implications to unemployment and inflation. Now, before closing, it's customary to give one thanks. And since I somehow happen to be running this thing, first of all, I want to express my gratitude and say 1,000 thanks to Eric Brion for underwriting the costs of this seminar and for his general interest in our work. Once more, I want to thank more sincerely the presenters of this seminar and their willingness to contribute their talents in making this seminar successful. And to my colleagues Michael Stephens, Emily, Liz, for their countless hours working behind the scenes, the food service personnel, certainly some Levy and Andrew Banco who stepped in to deal with the AV challenges, but most of all, to Randy Ray, a well-known prized economist, scholar, and teacher, and a very close friend and a colleague of over 3 decades who organized this seminar. But at the end, I want to thank you for coming. And I want to ask you to keep in touch with us and to wish you a safe return home. Thank you.